The private hearing room in the Capitol was dim, closed to press, and crackling with tension. The walls seemed to absorb the weight of history and ambition that echoed through the halls outside, but within, the air was electric and adversarial. Bernie Sanders, his shoulders rigid and face etched with the impatience of age and conviction, leaned forward over the polished oak table. Across from him, Kash Patel sat still, a studied smirk dancing at the edge of his mouth. He was flanked by two attorneys, one whispering periodically into his ear, but Patel kept his eyes locked on Sanders. "Let me be clear, Mr. Patel," Bernie began, his Brooklyn cadence clipped with fury. "You were not dragged before this committee to spin conspiracy theories or recite partisan talking points. You are here because the American people deserve the truth." Kash tilted his head. "Which truth, Senator? Yours, or the one you keep trying to silence?" A low murmur rippled through the room. Bernie rose, slamming his palm on the table, startling even the court reporter. "This is not a game. We are talking about classified information leaked to manipulate public perception and undermine democracy." Patel's smile sharpened. "You mean the truth that your side finds inconvenient? The kind that makes people like me dangerous to your narrative?" Bernie's hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the unbearable restraint it took not to shout. He sat back down slowly, eyes never leaving Patel's. "You think you're a symbol of truth, but you're a symbol of something else, something much darker. You're the whisper that turns neighbor against neighbor." Kash leaned forward now, his voice soft but razor sharp. "And you're the scream that drowns out every question. But you're losing, Senator. People don't believe your scream anymore." There was a beat of silence. The room seemed to hold its breath. The ranking Republican senator attempted to pivot. "Mr. Chairman, with respect, I believe Mr. Patel is within his rights to refuse answering hypothetical—" "Enough!" Bernie barked, waving his hand. "We're not here to debate hypotheticals. Mr. Patel, did you or did you not direct the unauthorized declassification and dissemination of intelligence connected to the Mar-a-Lago documents?" Kash chuckled. "Declassification isn't a crime, Senator. I followed lawful orders." Bernie's voice dropped, and that shift in tone caused more discomfort than his anger ever could. "That's not what the FBI report says. That's not what your colleagues under oath said. You're lying, and you think smiling through it makes it less dangerous." Kash's expression darkened. "And you think your age and volume make your paranoia righteous?" Bernie stood again, this time calmer, but with the aura of a man coiled like a spring. He walked slowly toward Patel, ignoring protocol. "You come into this chamber with that smug little grin, thinking we're just relics waiting to die off. But let me tell you something, Mr. Patel. Men like me don't go quietly. We don't vanish just because truth's gotten inconvenient for people like you." Patel's voice hardened. "I don't fear men like you anymore. You're loud, sure, but this country's shifting. You just can't hear it over your own voice." Bernie was now standing just feet from him, eyes burning. "And maybe I don't fear men like you either. But I know enough to be afraid of what happens when men like you are given power unchecked." A hush fell, the implication as heavy as a verdict. Bernie didn't blink. "You think this is about you? This is about the precedent, what you've done, what you represent. It's not over when this hearing ends." Kash Patel stood slowly, almost taunting in his casualness. "No, Senator, it's not over. But I'm not the one panicking. You are." His voice echoed in the wood-paneled room like a taunt carved in stone. "You're staring at the tide and screaming at it to stop. But tides don't listen. They just rise." Bernie's face hardened, and sometimes they recede and leave behind everything you tried to hide. Patel glanced at the Republicans on the committee, then back at Sanders. "You've spent a career yelling at billionaires, fighting for the working class. But you're not fighting anymore. You're reminiscing. And people like me, we're writing the next chapter." Bernie narrowed his eyes. If the next chapter is written by liars and cowards, then history will rip it out. I'll make sure of that." Patel laughed, a deep, echoing sound that felt rehearsed. "Good luck, Senator. History's already moved on." At that, Bernie took a step back, exhaled slowly, and turned his back on Patel. He walked to his seat and sat. Silence again. Patel's attorney whispered something, but he waved him off. "You think walking away proves something?" he called. Bernie turned, just enough to look over his shoulder. "Sometimes, the only way to end a farce is to leave the stage. But don't mistake that for retreat. I'm not done, not by a long shot." He reached for the gavel but paused. "One last question, Mr. Patel." Kash raised an eyebrow. "Why did you leak the name of the informant in the Ukraine file?" The room went ice cold. Kash didn't smile this time. "I didn't." Bernie stared at him. "You just confirmed there was one." The room imploded in chaos. Attorneys shouted. Staffers scrambled. The ranking Republican slammed his hand on the table, demanding order. But all of it was background noise to Kash Patel's stunned silence. His mouth opened, then closed. A camera, previously off, was hastily turned away, but not before catching the flicker of realization crossing his face. Bernie, eyes narrowing, stared as if watching a chess game end in a silent checkmate. "You didn't intend to say that, did you?" he murmured, voice barely audible but searing. "You've built an empire on secrets you claim didn't exist, and you just admitted to one." Patel looked at his attorneys, who were already halfway to calling for a recess, but the damage was done. The door to the hearing room swung open as aides rushed in, phones pressed to their ears, faces pale. Bernie, hands shaking now, not from restraint but exhaustion, stood. He looked down at Patel one last time. "You think history's already written, but sometimes it waits. For one mistake." He didn't gloat. He didn't smile. He just walked out, slowly, quietly, while behind him, Kash Patel finally understood the magnitude of what he had just unleashed. The echo of Bernie's footsteps trailed behind him like a drumbeat, and in that echo, a nation shifted ever so slightly as the tide turned. The fallout began before Bernie even made it back to his office. Reporters, though barred from the hearing, had caught wind of the chaos from aides texting under the table. "Sanders traps Patel in closed-door session" became a trending phrase within 30 minutes. Patel's team attempted immediate damage control, leaking statements claiming the senator had mischaracterized a semantic slip. But it was already too late. The DOJ had received word. The House Oversight Minority demanded transcripts. And Bernie? He didn't bask in it. He sat in silence as his chief of staff replayed the moment over and over. "He admitted it," she said. "Slipped or not, it's an admission." Bernie was staring at the wall, his thoughts somewhere deeper. "It wasn't the admission that mattered," he finally muttered. "It was the look in his eyes after. That's when I knew he didn't just make a mistake. He realized he was vulnerable." Across the Capitol, Kash was pacing. The attorneys were in full spin mode, arguing about whether to issue a retraction or double down, but Patel was unusually quiet. He wasn't thinking about strategy. He was thinking about the old man's eyes. "He's not just grandstanding," Patel said. "He was baiting me, and I walked right into it." One of his lawyers cursed under his breath. "They're going to subpoena your communications again, this time with that informant threat attached." Kash turned to him, suddenly cold. "Then we burn it before they get to it." The lawyer paled. "You can't destroy evidence? Not now." Kash stared, unblinking. "Then we make them doubt it ever existed." 2 nights later, Bernie appeared, on Rachel Maddow's show, a rare move, and not without risk. He was weary, grayer than usual, but composed. Maddow leaned forward, eyes glittering with curiosity. "Senator, Did Mr. Patel commit perjury? Bernie didn't blink. He committed something worse. He let the mask slip. The law will decide the rest. And you? She pressed. What do you want from this? Bernie's voice was low, heavy. I want people to remember what it feels like when power is held accountable, even if just for a second. In a nondescript office building downtown, Kash watched the interview in silence, whiskey in hand, his phone buzzing with texts from allies who either panicked or pledged loyalty, depending on their own risk calculations. He didn't answer any of them. He sat alone, the flicker of the TV bathing him in pale light. Then his phone buzzed again, this time a name he recognized but didn't expect, a top official in a federal agency. The message was short. They're digging through your 2019 files. You didn't encrypt everything. For the first time in 2 days, Kash's pulse quickened. He stood, phone clenched, and made the call. Get me into the archives tonight. I don't care how. But the voice on the other end hesitated. Bernie's already ahead of you, it said. They locked the system down. Silence. Then a hissed curse. He's not playing the game. He's playing the end game.